Hello, this is Eric. Welcome back to my Recon videos. This week we have race number 2 of the season 1 of the 2022 Zwift Racing League season. This week the course we have is a points race on the New York City's Park Perimeter Loop course. This week we only have 3 laps. We've done this in the past, showing the video of last year's race where we did this course 4 times, but luckily we went to do it 3 times. This is the course profile for the Park Perimeter Loop. It is a very undulating course, slightly under 10 kilometers long. I think it was about 14 minutes per lap last season. Some of the key features is the Harlem hill climb and the sprint. I'm going to go in more detail in the finish line, but that's where we really got to pay attention on this course. So here's the Harlem hill climb section. Right before the climb, we do have this nice steep downhill. You can try to recover. Use your anvil here. You do have enough time before it starts to kick up again. At the bottom, it's about an 800-meter climb, half a mile climb. The bottom is not that steep, but it does kick up, especially when you get to this upcoming corner. It kicks up to 6%, and then towards the top, it gets to 9%. The 4 times I did it last year in my race, the first time up was minute 12, almost 5.5 watts per kilo on this segment. Fourth time up, tired legs, about minute 20, almost 5 watts per kilo up this climb. So this is where everyone's gonna try to push, attack, split the field. So once you crest this hill, it is important to stay on the gas, especially if you're not at the very front, because this is where it's going to split the whole field apart. Stay on the gas downhill. Make sure you catch the group on this downhill. Try to recover some, because right after this downhill, we have this nice uphill where it kicks up again. So it's really important to stay on the gas, stay with the front group, or else if you're not on the front group by this kicker, you're chasing, and more than likely it's going to be hard to get back on that front group. So here's the sprint for the course. Here's a little downhill right for the sprint. It is a short sprint. The segment itself is slightly downhill, and it's slightly over 8 seconds for the actual segment time. But as you see, as we come around this little downhill, and right where that T is in the road, it starts to ramp up. You have a kicker right before the sprint segment. So you do have to pay attention. Everyone goes right around now. They start ramping up. You do have this steep kicker where it turns a 8-second sprint segment into basically a 30-second sprint. So everyone you see here takes off full gas going up this kicker. You haven't even got to this sprint segment yet, but every single lap, all 4 laps, we were going full gas before we hit that segment. Here's the start of the segment. It's only about 8 to 9 seconds. This was the first lap, so there's no power-ups on this video here, but the feather might play key on that little kicker before the sprint. Get it up to speed, maybe create a gap to get first through the segment. Another key thing is you got to stay on the gas. If you're not sprinting in the front, you got to stay on the gas, because it did split up. Maybe not this first lap, but definitely later on it created gaps on that sprint. So you got to make sure you stay on the gas, even if you're not sprinting. And for the rest of the time, just try to sit in and recover. If you're trying not to break away, there was a couple breakaway attempts where people attacked on some of these rollers. Nothing stuck in my race. Some other races I've seen, they were able to successfully break away, especially if you have a good teammate. But just sit in, recover, wait for that Harlem hill to come again. So it definitely takes its toll. You basically have 2 sprints each lap up the Harlem hill and act through the sprint segment. So just sit in, recover, rest until you do the next lap. So here's the final portion of the final lap of my race. The final sprint and the sprint finish are pretty close together. I think it's like 2.1 kilometers from the finish of the last sprint to the actual finish line. So you don't have a lot of time to recover. As you can see, people are still pushing it hard up this hill each time. I was just happy I didn't get dropped. This is my first race last year in the Zwift Racing League. I was just happy I got dropped a lot 2 seasons ago, or 2 years ago. So I was happy hanging on. I think I got some points in the first sprint. But as you can see, gaps do split. The field's winnowed down by now. But you got to stay on. This is double speed. But you got to try to do your best to recover. Maybe try to break away, do a flyer. But the final sprint, you do have a little downhill, but it is a uphill kick. About 1K to go here. So you might be able to use that invisibility power up to get away, sneak away, do a flyer. But you do have a couple, it's still rolling up and down. You do have a little downhill. I think that starts right around 1K anytime now. You start doing a little downhill. As you can see, we had a guy off the front that tried to break away. I think we had an invisibility last year too. People popping up. So, but it's important. Maybe if you had the feather, it'd be key on this finish line. Here's the coming up on the sprint finish. Got that nice little downhill, so you gotta make sure you position yourself well. And then here's normal speed, trying to do this last kicker up the hill. So I think it's about 300 meters, full gas at the end of a race. Hurts, especially if you just did basically 6 sprints in a row ahead of that. So good performance. Hopefully everyone does well next week. Looking forward to it. My type of course. Not a mountain climber myself, so looking forward to score some points.